Sorry about that. Um, but anyway, you probably saw my video where I talked about the upcoming MLP My Little Pony movie, which I obviously is going to be based off Friendship is Magic, as far as we know. And you heard what I had to say at the end of what possible directions they can go with it. Well, even though this was published back in October by Variety, they did this about a couple days after, 3 days afterwards. Um, but Variety talked about how Hasbro wants to take the financial range of its movies, starting with the My Little Pony film in 2017. Basically, kind of giving a strategy of where they want to go. Again, this was published by Mark Gracer out of Variety, and this is what he has to say in this report. He says, and I quote, "After spending the past 7 years, 7.5 now, if you will, launching film franchises based on its toys and games like Transformers and G.I. Joe, and setting up other movies like Monopoly, Candyland, and Risk, Hasbro Studios is poised to take the next logical step, financing its own features. The toy maker has launched AllSpark Pictures, a clever nod to Transformers, though which it will fully fund and co-finance a slate of films through which it will The toy maker has launched AllSpark Pictures, a clever nod to Transformers, through which it will fully fund and co-finance a slate of films. The projects that will inaugurate the banner are an animated My Little Pony movie, which, like I said, is obviously going to be Friendship is Magic based. The first, planned to play theatrically in 2017, and a live-action adaptation of animated series JEM and the Holograms, which will sing into theaters on October 23rd of this year. Universal will split JEM's budgets with Hasbro. In other words, they'll be hand in hand, if you will. Stephen Davis says this. He is the president of Hasbro, the Burbank-based Hasbro Studios. He says, and I quote, "We have a long history in film, and it's become a very important part of our content strategy. We want to use great stories to activate our brands." He adds, "to keep them fresh in the minds of the company's target consumers, kids, and families. Putting its own money on the line for some AllSpark projects will give Hasbro more creative control and ownership of its films. Well, the company is said to be considering bankrolling movies in the $5 million to $30 million budget range. According to individuals who have discussed partnerships, it's not turning its back on big budget franchises, despite the fact its costly 2012 Battleship for Universal lost more than $100 million. Stephen Davis also says, and I quote, "We will continue to make big tentpole movies with our studio partners," explaining that on smaller pictures, which he explains are going to be on smaller pictures. He also says, let me rephrase that. Stephen Davis also says, and I quote, "We will continue to make big tentpole movies with our studio partners," explaining that on smaller pictures. Hasbro can have more control over budget and marketing. Stephen Davis continues to say, and I quote, "There are more economic models that fit certain films. It creates a level of flexibility for us that we can use to our advantage, where we where we fully finance a movie, the economics are more potentially favorable. Okay, so basically what the Stephen Davis is saying there, the president of the Burbank-based, the Hasbro Studios in Burbank, what Davis is saying there is when it comes to like Transformers and maybe G.I. Joe and maybe some of the board game based movies, they're gonna continue working with the other studios and co-finance with them. But on the other hand, when it comes to maybe ponies and other future projects, they're gonna have more creative control, more say on what happens. Now it shows a picture here, I showed this earlier, of Hasbro's projects, as it puts it, in play. That's basically the slate of movies right there. That's the slate of movies, or some of the movie projects they have in play for the upcoming years. And as you can see, they're using Pinkie Pie as a nod to My Little Pony, which again strongly suggests that that Friendship is Magic is going to be what the movie is based on, especially when it says here the popular pink steed and her friends will move on to the big screen in 2017. But the other projects, as you saw, there are, of course, My Little Pony, JEM and the Holograms, which will be this year, Monopoly, which Ridley Scott is still attached to produce the adaptation of an 80-year-old game, Hungry Hungry Hippos. Emmett Fuad Films plans a hipporific movie version if it can be made at the right price. And Candyland, which Adam Sandler is still set to star in despite his recent Netflix deal. Now, it continues on to say in the article, My Little Pony will be one of those and is expected to be budgeted at far less than films like Despicable Me, which cost $69 million to produce. Hasbro already has produced direct-to-home video animated pony movies, and it's producing, or has produced, the 100th episode of a TV series that plays worldwide. Stephen Davis continues to say here, Stephen Davis continues to say here, and I quote, "We have a lot of experience working on this particular brand." Okay. Well, basically that's what Stephen Davis said. He says, we have a lot of experience working on this particular brand. Adding that technology has, he also adds, Stephen Davis also adds, that adding that technology has brought down costs on animation. Joe Ballini, who is adapting Fox Animation's Cardboard based on the graphic novel by Earthworm Jim creator Doug TenNapel, is penning the script for the Pony Pick. With Transformers, Hasbro's content strategy plays out year-round with movies and TV shows. The same is true with My Little Pony. Stephen Davis continues to say, and I quote, "We are very excited about the potential of that movie," which, of course, doesn't have a distributor yet, but he continues to say, there's a tremendous amount of demand for the brand, with the TV show playing in 180 countries, and toys and licensing and gaming are also popular. Article goes on to say, Universal, which is releasing JEM in 2015, partnered with Indie and Ouija, which came out last year and is now on DVD and Blu-ray, partnered with indie horror producer Jason Blum on both movies. Okay, now it just talks about the board game that's already on DVD and all that, so I'll provide a link to the article that you can see yourself. Continuing on, Stephen Davis says, okay, that's still about the board game there, but moving on. Again, I'll provide a link down below. It says, by working with Bloom, whose Blumhouse label is behind horror hits like Paranormal Activity, The Purge, and Insidious, Hasbro was able to find a partner that could cut costs and figure out a way to reap more financial rewards from its toy-based productions. Hasbro typically sees a bump in merchandise sales when a film is released, followed by its home video push and TV spin-offs. By taking more of a financial role in how its movies get funded in the future, it can collect a larger share of the box office as well. While developing its new slates of film, Hasbro does keep one disappointment in mind: Battleship, whose $200 million budget was covered by Universal. We're very proud of that film, which went on to earn. It says, we are very proud of that film, stresses Davis, which went on to earn $300 million at the worldwide box office, but admits, quote, one of the lessons learned was that it was released during a window where there was a very big tentpole movie in competition that nearly dominated the box office. Really dominated the box office. And of course, he was referring to The Avengers. Clearly, our ability to have better control of the calendarization is important. Okay. And there it is right there. Let me take the time here. Okay, so basically what the article is pointing out, and of course Stephen Davis, the president of the Burbank-based Hasbro Studios, is saying, is that with the All-Star Pictures, being more in control of the projects, starting in 2017, maybe sooner, they not only can reap more of the financial benefits from the box office, but they can basically have control as to when a movie is released. So instead of having a movie released during a time when you have something like, to say, an Avengers movie coming out, you know, you could say, okay, Avengers is coming here. We know that's going to blow out any competition around it. What do we put in its place? Where do we take this movie? Oh, I know. Let's check this calendar. Oh, this date doesn't have anything really substantial, if you will, coming out that day. Let's put it here. And I think basically that's what they're saying. And also, I do agree with the fact that with them doing All-Star Pictures, it will give them that creative control that they seek, that they've been needing since day one. So I look at that as a positive for Hasbro Studios. But really, you know, I think it's a good idea, and you know, with them initiating the All-Spark deal, especially somewhat with Universal when it comes to JEM, and then mostly through with My Little Pony and all that, it really shows that Hasbro wants to give fans what they want. And by saying, hey, we're going to have creative control, more creative control over what is shown and what is brought to the screen, that's even better. And again, all hints, including this article and the article before in the other video I did, all points to Friendship is Magic being the My Little Pony movie that's coming to theaters. Again, the only question is what direction are they going to go in, and I addressed that at the end of the other video. You could watch that. But let me know what you guys think down below. Comment if you like, and I will talk to you all later. God bless. Take care.